Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Closed Traffic Podcast, an aviation and flight simulation show. I'm Johnny, and along with me here we have our full staff here. I got our the man who will paint a DME arc as well as Picasso does paintings as he works on his IFR venture. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Salmon. Mike, say hello to people, man.
Oh man, you never fail to surprise me on what's gonna come out of your mouth when you introduce me on these shows, man. How's it going, man?
All is well, my friend. All is well. And of course, we can't forget our main man, Charlie, down here. Charlie, I don't have anything for you just yet, man. But Charlie, say hello to people.
Hello, people. What's going on?
Oh man, not a whole lot, man. Mike, you guys still got that tropical storm over there in California?
Yeah, it's brought some humidity in here. It's moving up the coast now, but it was very much needed. We were in, triple digits for about 6 days.
Oh my gosh,
straight. It was pretty bad. So,
gosh,
all good.
All good, sweet.
All good.
Well, guys, I'm just doing everything I can not to faint here because I can't believe we actually have him on.
I know, right? This is awesome.
Guys, I want to introduce our very special guest here, Mikey McBryan from this TV show Ice Pilots, as well as his latest venture, Plane Savers. Mikey, say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for being on. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
For sure. So, Mikey, I want to dive right into it, my friend. I know, again, I've been a huge fan of the TV show Ice Pilots, and it's been something that has continued to inspire me along my aviation career early on, and I think it's inspired a lot of individuals as well. So I guess my first question would be, what brought along Ice Pilots? Were you approached by the production company, or how did that transpire?
Yeah, it's quite the long story, but the short part of it is I was in college in Red Deer, Alberta, taking marketing of all things, marketing and business administration, and a TV producer just phoned up, and he was trying to get a hold of my father, and my father didn't answer any of his calls, and he got my cell phone somehow, and it was just as simple as, do you want to be on television? And this would have been like 2007, around there.
Wow.
So that was just not everyone had a TV show back then. It was still kind of rare. And there was definitely no YouTube or anything. Well, there was YouTube, but YouTube was just South Park videos.
So
it was, that's the reason I got YouTube. Really, was just to watch
South Park. South Park. Yeah, truth be told, yeah, it's true.
So that's kind of how it happened. It was really just the producer. He was familiar with Buffalo Airways from an article he did, or actually a radio show he did when he was working for CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Company, which is the government-owned propaganda machine. So he did that. So he had an award-winning show actually with the stunt guy that did all the like the Terminator movies and everything like that.
Oh wow!
So they had a show, it was very popular, won a bunch of awards, but the host they couldn't make a deal on season 2, so he needed a new show, and he was just basically, what happens with these producers is it's almost like a shotgun approach where they grab a whole bunch of ideas and then they just see what sticks, and we were just the sperm that got to the egg, basically, and that was it.
Wow, unreal.
Yeah, so there's many steps, which is quite funny, because what I do now too is I help people that are getting into television and that kind of stuff. Basically, taking a normal person, and then getting them ready for television, and part of the getting ready is that it's very low chance. There's a very
Sure.
very low chance, and to even get on television and to get a season 1 and then a season 2, season 3, season 4, it just gets astronomically harder as you go up.
Absolutely.
Seems very simple when you're at home watching.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That means it's working.
Right.
Yeah.
When the television show looks very difficult, then that's a bad thing because everyone's having issues. So yeah, I do some mentoring with people that are in that process and try to keep everything humble because you're not even look at the West Coast Chopper, not the West Coast Chopper guys, the Orange County Chopper guys, like how big they were and how it all just kind of came apart. And they had everything.
Right.
And in West Coast Choppers too, Jesse James down there in Texas, he same thing. He built this big empire and then it kind of just fell apart on him. He was because West Coast Choppers was everywhere.
Right.
You couldn't
Everywhere.
get through Walmart without seeing 50 items, right? So yeah, it's a neat, interesting, very complicated.
Wow.
It's a big web, and then trying to do the airline stuff on top of that, and then together.
That's what's amazing.
Is quite interesting. So I find it all very fun, actually.
You guys did what is it, 6 seasons, right?
Yeah, we did 6 seasons, 73 episodes.
Man.
Yeah, and season 5 was supposed to be the last, and that's why it kind of seems like the last episode of season 5 was kind of like a goodbye episode.
Right.
But one of the episodes in season 5, we had some NHL players, the hockey players.
I remember that.
Yep,
one.
I saw that one.
And you know, in Canada, that's a big thing. That's basically
for sure.
having the royal family on.
Right.
So the ratings just went really high. So they came and said, hey, can we do a season 6? And that's why season 6, if you look, is actually not as many episodes because we started late on it. So it's kind of good. We kind of knew that season 6 was going to be the last season, so that was kind of good. We still got canceled. It was just like the most horrible word in the world when you're dealing with television. But at least we knew it was coming. And
exactly.
Our show got very, very expensive to make, and at the time, everyone wanted mining shows. So mining shows are cheap, and so that's why there's like all these gold shows and
Gold Rush, and
so it's interesting.
Wow.
And that's the problem with the television show. The longer it goes, the more expensive it gets. Because everything costs more. Once it's popular, not only like a lot of people focus on who's in front of the camera, but the people behind too. So everybody, as it gets popular and popular and popular, it gets balloon. And it's so much easier to just go start another show because you can get the costs low. And now it's completely different because of streaming. So streaming has changed the game completely. Like Ice Pilots in that era, Ice Road Truckers and Deadliest Catch and that kind of stuff. We're kind of the last true network shows because right when we finished in 2014, that's when Netflix and everything took off. And then of course, and then then Ice Pilots went on Netflix, and where did you guys first see Ice Pilots?
It used to come on the Weather Channel for me.
And then I think Hulu is where I first saw it, or Prime, one of those. I can't remember.
So that's like the third iteration. Because actually the first season of Ice Pilots aired on National Geographic in the U.S. And they only did the first season, and then the Weather Channel took it. But then the Weather Channel kind of made a hybrid show because the show is like a TV hour, which is like 45 minutes, and they put it down to a half an hour. So they cut out quite a bit to fit it in, and mostly just the weather related stuff.
Right.
So as a show, there's very different versions of it everywhere. Like the Canadian version, Lenny Kravitz sings the theme song "Fly Away." So for a Canadian, that's what they heard, and then
what they see.
And then the international, like the U.S. and England and Australia and Germany, and all that, it's a David Usher song called "Airplanes" they use.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat how it's being repurposed. And now Wonder, which is there's a production company that has the rights for YouTube, and so
Right.
it's on YouTube now. So it's getting another resurgence. So it's kind of like
Wow.
the good thing about Icebox for me is that the only thing that really changes is our cell phones. All the
Sure.
airplanes are the same. We're all the same. But it's like
I've
you see me
noticed
holding
that.
a BlackBerry, and it's just like,
Yeah, it just progresses.
I saw
The
that.
iPhone and-
what decade is this, eh? Like,
hey,
but,
BlackBerry for the win, guys.
so that's kind of the need. It's very interesting to see how it goes. Like you saw, you guys experienced it in different versions. Like you said, Weather
Right.
Channel, Hulu, Prime, Netflix, bootleg, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of cool. And that's because really a lot of shows, when they're off, they're done.
Yeah.
Especially reality shows.
Right.
It's very rare for a reality show to have legs.
Mhm.
And part of that is to get enough episodes in the can, because if you just have one season, there's not enough episodes to play. So you heard the term syndication. So syndication happens around season 3, season 4, when you have enough episodes. So because we have 6 seasons, it's kind of like up here they play MASH way too much. Like MASH is like always on, and that's kind of like how it is. There's Ice Pilots is now back onto what originally in Canada was on the History Channel,
right?
And then so now it's kind of playing on that in the mornings at 1:00 in the morning, kind of like an infomercial. Another cool thing is around this topic is how different areas see the show. Like in England, it was on the Discovery Channel, like with Mythbusters. So people would ask me how the Mythbusters guys are, and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And so and in Canada, when it was on our larger network called Global, I was on before The Simpsons, which was like the most amazing thing for me on Sundays.
Oh, for sure.
For a lead in on The Simpsons, and then there was a commercial with our show, and then there's like William Shatner had like 6 shows at the time. So there was like a joint thing. So people ask me like, "How's William Shatner?" I'm like, "I've never met anybody. I'm up in Yellowknife here." And in Australia, it's in National Geographic, and so it's interesting. And there's in like Croatia and Russia, different versions of it. It's really cool. Just for a bunch of guys from Hay River.
Wow. I'll tell you what, those bunch of guys from Hay River have made a impact on the aviation community. I can't tell you, because we're also a flight simulation show as well. And I can't tell you how many iterations of a C-47 for Flight Simulator, or how many paint jobs I've been done for Flight Simulator, featuring Buffalo. And as far as segueing to Buffalo, so you guys, of course, specialize in cargo hauling as well. But I noticed during the show there were some other facets I saw as well, like firefighting, things like that. Is that typically something done this every year, or is it mostly seasonal?
Firefighting is definitely seasonal. It's not too busy at Christmas time, but that is actually the most revenue is we have is firefighting.
Really?
And that's where television shows have a little bit is skewed a bit, because firefighting is done by the government. They're very, very cautious, and they're very, very protective of what goes on, and they don't like filming for various reasons. And a lot of reasons I agree with them, and a lot of reasons I wish they would be a little bit more lenient. And different areas are, and so when you see firefighting, it's mostly like when we go to Alberta, we go to a different jurisdiction. But that was a big part, and that was a big thing that we were trying to do as a possible second iteration of the show. Would be the whole firefighting end of it, because we're all over. Like we have a lease plane in California right now. We were Quebec, and of course we did Turkey and all this kind of the fun stuff. But there's roadblocks for television that are different. So it's Buffalo Airways is if you're an accountant, we're a firefighting company. But if you're a fan, we're a DC3 company.
Yes.
So it's kind of neat how that works and stuff like that. And people are very surprised. Like we have, like this season, we had 2 Lockheed Electra land-based air tankers, 8 802 air tractors from Texas, and they're full fire boss with the floats and everything.
Wow.
And they're brand new. They're like from 2016, which is like yesterday for us.
Yesterday, yeah.
And we had 4 CL-215s on this year. 2 here in territories and 2 in Quebec. And then all the bird dogs. So there's the Turbo Commanders, the King Airs. So there's quite a bit of all that stuff. And then the smaller airplanes like a Beach Bear and secondary King Airs for smoke patrol, where you go and find the fire and stuff like that.
I didn't realize your fleet was so large. I mean, you guys have a ton of aircrafts.
Yeah, there's like, if you actually go through like the actual tail numbers and serial numbers, there's like 100 airplanes. But it's much like a guy that owns the scrapyard saying, "I got 300 cars," but not all of them are can go to an car show. But that's there's quite a bit. But and seasonal too. So all that firefighting stuff stops. The Lockheed Electras are highly modified firefighting aircraft.
Right.
All the whole interior stripped. All the pressurization systems gone. So you can't use it as a cargo machine.
Right.
So we have other Electras we use for cargo machines. But the value of the Electra is the engines and props. So like literally last year, where we're so low on props, they landed our tanker aircraft in Red Deer, and before the pilots even got out, the mechanics were in there taking a prop off to ship it to Yellowknife.
Wow.
Wow.
So a lot of these parts are
very hard to come by.
Very hard to come by. So.
Oh my goodness. And that is one question I had, Mikey. Is it because, which I'm sure that, those props are not being manufactured, or is it a situation where you guys could possibly put in like a special request?
A lot of it is with aviation is you need it now. And planning, no matter what you hear from anybody, planning is a luxury a lot of people don't have.
For sure.
For sure.
So it's just like anything, I guess. But so like if you need a prop, it's nothing for the prop shop to say, well, about a year and a half, we could probably get you one. And we're like, we need it now. Like right now, like the 737 that I'm working on, our newest cargo aircraft, the landing gear's in Miami somewhere. So
holy smokes!
If you see a landing gear in Miami,
coming up 75 through Georgia. Hey, I know where that's going.
And so we're waiting. This airplane's delayed because of the landing gear, and everything down the list. You got inflation and COVID and monkeypox and the Queen's dead and every single excuse down the book to get an extra week. So
exactly.
So it's fun, but I really like it. It's always a challenge, and
for sure.
And the customer, it's different because the customer, like a 20-minute delay for the customer is the end of the world.
Oh yeah,
it's just like the plane's delayed 20 minutes, and it's like, oh my god,
gotta have it.
So the scales of everything are a little bit different, but it's good. The airplanes are all running good. Pilot shortage, just like everywhere.
Oh my goodness,
everywhere's got a pilot shortage. We got a really good group of pilots right now that are working really hard, and new pilots coming in all the time.
Still all the time. Wow,
all the time. Yeah, and it's somebody. You can never guess too. That's the big thing is you can never guess. You think after a while you can see somebody and be like, oh, this person's going to be good or this person's going to be bad, but it's like some cruel aviation like magic trick or some like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like it's I always think of my David Alexander, who's one of the best we had. He's right from downtown Toronto.
Oh, wow.
And never seen snow, can't drive. He showed up with right out of like a Drake music video with the big
I
puffy
remember.
jacket.
He's the one that flew the Chinook, right?
Yeah, and the hat's sideways, and he had the lug boots, and they weren't tied up or anything like this, and very like inner city, like the how he acted, and right out of a music video, and I was like, this guy is like, what the heck? He's like, and the funny part was I was waiting at the airport to pick him up, and he was waiting for me to pick him up, and of course this is. I guess was it during Ice Pilots? I don't know if that was on Ice Pilots or not. But we didn't even. I was like, after. Everyone's out of the terminal, and I was like, "Oh, you must be the new pilot,
new guy."
and he was amazing. He was amazing. He was really? One of the best, and you could have never known his. He was really good. He's like first generation Canadian. His family is from Portugal, and his dad was always getting mixed up. He's either a butcher or a carpenter. I can't remember, but it was like really, really like work ethic, like amazing work ethic, and I couldn't speak more highly of the guy, especially when he left. He excelled through the ranks of the Air Canada and everything really quickly.
Wow
and so just amazing. So that humbled me so much because I thought for sure
you yeah
and like the exact opposite, you'll get like a 6'5" farm guy from Manitoba who's never drove a new tractor in his life, and he's always fixed his own stuff and the whole 9 yards, and it's just like a monster. And then 2 weeks later, his mom's picking him up and he's crying. Like he's just
no. That was the fun part of the show, though. Like just guessing like who's gonna make it. Like
who can handle it?
Yeah. And you never know. You never know. Like the guys that come out of Victoria, like Vancouver Island, like there's no snow. Like that is basically like the Canadian tropics.
Yeah,
and sometimes those guys do really good too. And girls too. Girls, same thing. Like,
right.
It's very easy to say guys, but we had
sure.
Jamie McDonald, who was just did her full tour here, got about 2,000 hours in the C-46.
Wow.
Same thing. Just came in. She's flying the Max right now for Swoop out of Canada.
Wow.
So she went from nothing to C-46 to the Max. And that's like nothing in the middle.
Nothing in the middle.
That's nothing in the middle. So like 172, 46 Max, and so that's that's what happens because these airplanes are big. They're over 12.5.
Oh yeah.
Experience. There's
no good heart flying. Yeah.
So it's really good, and yeah. So
that was the thing about it.
46. Could you imagine that?
Oh, it's insane. But when you think about it, man, that's one thing. And that was one thing I loved about the show. Just looking at the type of flying they're doing, it's either going to make you a pilot or you're going to watch it.
That's it.
That's just, it's just some good heart flying. And then it's not just doing that. They're working the ramp, they're learning the operations of how to operate the aircraft, not just flying it, right? End to end, exactly. And that was one of the things that resonate with me because I worked for a little operation, and sometimes if we didn't have enough rampers, guess what? We had to throw bags. It was just something that you had to do. And I think us as aviators sometimes we get it, depending on where our upcoming through the ranks, we get a little spoiled. I don't have to touch that, right? But
there is a place for both.
Sure.
Dealing with the Boeing now, and like going back to the simulation thing, like we got a crew going through the simulator right now, like the full motion sim and everything like that, and seeing the difference between, that C-46 that just landed here about 25 minutes ago, what they had to go through to what they have to do in the sim to run the 737. It is a completely different world, and so I can see there's a time and place for everything. And I respect the whole gambit of everything. 'Cause
Right.
everything is a little bit different, like the corporate pilots and the this and that.
Right.
So it really comes down to the person, and
Sure.
it is an individual thing that all pilots will have to go through, or all anybody has to go through. Is what
Mhm.
path do you want, and what do you get at the end
Absolutely.
of it?
Mhm.
Like we have a 777 captain that was tried to retire, and he's like, "No, I want to go to Yellowknife and fly the Electra this summer." And
Wow.
so here's a guy that was on the top end of one of the most prestigious airline in the world,
Yeah.
retired, top honors, and now he's pushing freight in a Lockheed Electra in
Talk about
Resolute
loving what
Bay,
you're
which
doing.
is
Yeah.
so
Oh
like.
man.
So, and then there's the pilot that got into it to retire at 55, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then that's something different. So if
Hmm.
everyone's a little bit different, and sometimes
Wow.
I've ran into it that you have a 737 pilot that's retired but grew up
Sure.
on DC-3s. They
Sure.
can't go back. In their
Right.
head they can. Like we had
Mm.
Arnie Schrader, we had one King Air Canada captain come back, and he's
Wow.
a DC-3 guy, 1,500 hours, blah blah blah, and
Right.
they didn't even get to take off. They taxied around, and Arnie came back and said, "This guy's no good."
Wow.
Dang.
And
Wow.
and then you get a 22-year-old kid that's his last airplane was the weight of the engine of the C-46, and they do really good. So
That's
Never know.
crazy.
Never know.
So and it's I can imagine it's kind of much like the military a bit, where
Sure.
if you need people to mold and sculpt because they don't have any of the bad
Absolutely.
habits. They don't have
Absolutely.
that mentality of
Good point.
I can do this. You got to basically.
Mhm.
The better part is if I have no clue what I'm doing,
Right.
then you're good. Then you can do really
Exactly.
good. It's
Exactly.
a weird mix. But then you get
Excellent.
the hotshot people that say they could do everything and then they can't. Which some people don't like the Top Gun style. Right? It's like, dang.
Exactly.
We have one guy. I don't want to mention his name, but I was like, and then you do a test flight or you do a training flight. And I'm like, how was he? And the pilot's like, he's good. I'm like, oh man, just pains you. Eh? Sometimes that's it. It's all different types. Eh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. It's almost like if you get out of your car and with your aviators on, you're like, I don't know about this guy. Exactly. In the Tesla. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
Shut up, Elon.
Exactly. Yeah, that was that I think going back to it, that was one of the things that resonated with me, because I know Mike, he brought up a really good question. He was like, man, a lot of these guys must be hungry. They'll go out, work the ramp, and then just for the opportunity to be able to fly some of these iconic aircraft, which I can't really think of any other operation in the world where you can still do that.
It's actually very surprising the small amount of people, the percentage of people that want to do it for the aircraft.
Right.
Actually, the television show is like when you watch a show and
Sure.
Everyone falls in love with the characters, the airplanes, and all that stuff, and that's
Sure.
the romance of it. But
Right.
I would say 8 out of the 10 pilots don't know what a DC-3 is. They don't know what a C-46 is.
Wow.
It's just
Really?
they just show up, and this is like what they did. Their uncle did this, or their dad said you have to make a Yellowknife before you do something. There's a lot of times there's a family or an influence outside of themselves, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
And then very rarely do you have people that actually care about the airplanes in
Wow.
the history sense.
Right.
Yeah.
In history sense, much like say like a UPS driver, it'd be like some people are like, oh, this is the brand new Ford Econoline, this and that. And other people just be like, yeah, this the air conditioner's not working. Like it's all different types, but it's surprising. It always surprises me that there'd be a new pilot that's checked out in the DC-3,
Right.
and they have no clue or even want to know about the history of it. And
Wow.
and I was guilty of that a bit too growing up. Because that was just, they were just everywhere, right? That
they were just everywhere. Yeah,
it.
right.
And people would show up from Germany or something, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this airplane was in Market Garden, and the co-pilot's name was Johnson, and he went back to and started an auto dealership in New Jersey." And I'm like, "How do you know this stuff?" Like,
wow, that's unreal.
Yeah, and like they know the whole thing, or yeah, just like the like the, for example, the co-pilot that was in one of our airplanes in D-Day WZS, he got shot in another DC-3 a few weeks after D-Day, and they shipped him back to Nova Scotia, and he died of his wounds back home in Canada a few months later or whatever, and he's buried. So like they were like, people were like, "Oh, here's his." I went and found his grave, and this is it. And they're like, it's just, each airplane has these amazing stories. And it just goes out,
unbelievable,
and it's all kind of searchable, right? And,
right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of neat, and some of that's overboard.
Sure.
A lot of stuff. There was one guy that he was very hardcore, and he'd want. This was before Icebox. This was about early 2000s. He would want pictures of one airplane WZS, because he would every few years he would update the paint as it faded.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's extreme one side. And then and then you have the extreme, the other side, where people come for hangar tours and they're just infatuated with the cats. Like these cats are the best thing in the world, right? That's how I always joked. I always joked was, if I would ever, set up a facility for tourists or whatever, I'd just put a bunch of cats in a room.
That's it.
Because it's just like you could be in the Tesla plant or something, and a cat walks by, everyone's like, "Oh, there's a cat." It's a cat. Elon's trying to show his rocket off, and he's just like, "Oh."
Heck, man, down here we've got a place that's called the Cat Cafe. You literally go in and have coffee with like 50 cats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. They jump up on the table. You sitting there putting sugar in your coffee. There's a cat. You just sit there.
I'm surprised it's not bigger than Starbucks, really.
Great idea.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's different.
That's crazy. But I think one of the questions that come up as well is, what led to the decision, Mikey, to continue to operate these aging machines? Obviously, they have a lot of cycles on them. They've been through some things there. Most of them are older than my dad, but what was the business decision that really drove that?
Customers. All comes down as customers, and that's just like anything. Any business, same thing. Like if you find an old auto body shop that's still using lead and doing old school things, and just like, well, why are you still doing that? It's like, well, people still bring me cars to do it the old fashioned way. And up here, it's really economical, because like I'm looking at the map of the Northwest Territories on my screen here. Twice the size of Texas.
Absolutely.
And there's 40,000 people. So basically a high school football game worth of people spread out everywhere. So how do you service the people? Like there's long distances with very short runways. And so even if they had the best runways in the world, are you going to put a $30 million airplane to service 500 people once a week?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like you could kind of think of it, if your job is to drop off 500 pounds once a week, are you going to go buy a brand new Super Duty, or can you just grab the old 82 F-150, throw it in the back, and get it done, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of how it is. And it used to be everywhere. This used to be true everywhere. Every state in the lower 48 had armies of DC-3s, and they everywhere in the world, Colombia and a lot of stuff, and it's like cockroaches everywhere, right? it just slowly kind of like the glaciers dissipating back up north. It's just like the last bits are Alaska, and here and what causes that is there's no roads and there's no people. and there's no good runways, and that's kind of the mix, and that's the last ecosystem, like Australia with weird ass platypuses and stuff like that. It's the last. No one bothered them, so they're still there, right? It's
Right.
That's right.
and that's kind of it, right? And like I said, I went to business school, and it's like none of this is applicable. Whatever you're talking about, all these business stuff, it means nothing.
It means nothing.
I don't know what a widget is, and we don't have them up north, right? And it's different. The North is an amazing place because there's
for sure.
It's like my grandfather was the very first mayor of Hay River. And so, like, that's how far back it goes.
Wow.
So like, it's not that crazy. Like there's in Europe, there's coffee mugs older than the whole, northern Canada, right? So
that's true.
So it's still pretty fresh and stuff like that. Like 200 kilometers, which is like 110 miles north of here, is the oldest rock in the world. Like that is
really
4.2 billion years old. And that's like, and a little bit of a science thing.
Sure.
This is very generalized. So if you're a geologist, you'll probably be laughing at me. But it's so old and it's cracked. Like you can imagine, like your skin, and if your skin starts to bleed because it's really really cracked, that's this like the inner mantle and stuff can come out from the diamonds are really far down there with all the pressure. Right? There's this kind of magma stuff called kimberlite.
Right.
And so diamonds can get caught up in this kimberlite, and they have these like kimberlite explosions, which is like a volcano. And I've been told I shouldn't say that because it's not like that, but anything I've seen, I'm like, that kind of looks like a volcano. So all these diamonds are through this magma can get to the surface, and so 100,000 years. They're very rare events, but when it happens, it creates this big pipe. And so this big pipe comes up and it shoots these diamonds everywhere. And the diamonds are spread out everywhere, especially with glaciers and everything moving around. And to find these diamonds, it's kind of like a dog, like a sniffing dog that tries to find like a bad guy. Dog, like you'll find the wind, right? And the wind, it actually comes out to like a big V. And so the dog is sniffing. He's going to each side of the V until he goes down and he triangulates to where it is. And that's what they did. They were searching for diamonds all over Canada, doing this dog-like pattern. They're just hitting the sides and trying to get the small. And it just happened just north here at Yellowknife where all the diamonds are. And it's because everything is so old. And all this stuff can happen. So if you ever wanted to build a house and don't have to worry about it, you just put it there.
Just find your spot there.
Except when the next glacier comes and wipes it right.
Wipes everything out. That's great. You touched on something I'm curious about. The age of the aircraft. How hard is it nowadays to find parts for these things?
It's the World War II stuff is fairly okay because of the war effort. There's communities down in the States there where that's all they did was they built the seatbelts for the B-17 and all that stuff, and so they overproduced all the parts. Like the war effort was just nuts. So anything that's built 1946 and back, there's like we got trailer loads of rudder pedals and just
So there's actually a surplus of certain things.
Huge surplus.
Interesting. I thought it would be the opposite.
I would
there was a guy named Bob Westbrook in Florida. He had like just hangars of brand new parts. But then the flip side happened after World War II. Everything like say the DC-6 and then up DC-8 to everything, the 707, 737, 747, all these airplanes, our parts were built to order. And so these are for-profit companies. There's no enemy, there's no Hitler, so they just build anything they needed. So a lot of times it's the modern airplanes. Like if I'm an Airbus A380 right now and I bust a wingtip, I'm going to have to call Airbus and they're going to have to build me one.
They're going to build it, exactly.
Yeah. So,
good point.
God knows what materials it's made out of.
Mhm.
So-
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yeah, and the process is where these airplanes, literally Rosie the Riveter in either Long Beach, California, or Oklahoma City, was a 22-year-old lady with a rivet gun built this airplane by hand, right? So
Right.
in
Wow.
2022, I think we could figure it out. So there's a lot of the
You would
airplane
think,
that can,
yeah.
a lot of the airplane can be repaired. Modern
Right.
airplanes with composite and different alloys and different, like if a CNC machine made it, means a human can't. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
like back then there's no CNC machine, so you just kind of did it.
That's true.
Kind of
Just like working on an older vehicle compared to a new vehicle where you got to hook a computer up to find out what the heck's going on. That's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And the new car has benefits that could run a lot better and higher.
That's
Sure,
right.
more
More-
efficient. Yeah.
More fuel
More
efficient, absolutely.
But when the zombie apocalypse comes, like
Go out there to the '86 Chevrolet and fire it up.
it was funny. We went down to Venezuela on the one you might have seen on one of the Ice Pilots episodes where we went to go find the CL-15. The Chevy Caprice, like a 1985 Chevy Caprice, they were everywhere. And I was like, wow, if you would have known you could just buy that one car for the rest of your life. If you just went in there in 1985, give me that Chevy Caprice, you'd be good to go. Because whatever's that car, man, they sure drive a lot of them. So.
A lot of them.
Like driving a boat on asphalt.
Holy smokes! And I see the 737 in your background, Mikey. There is that a -200 with the gravel kit, or is it?
It's a 300. So it's a 300. I can kind of see there. I'll try to disappear there.
Yep.
But it's a 300 special freighter. The big thing is our issue is because the Electra does all the gravel stuff.
Sure.
Is we need pavement to pavement, and the C-46 is our pavement to pavement airplane.
Right.
So this airplane, our main route will be Yellowknife and Yellowknife, Edmonton to Yellowknife, Yellowknife every night. And the fuel savings by using this airplane versus, say, a Lockheed Electra or a 737-200 will pay for the airplane in 3 years just in fuel savings.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
And 3 years of Buffalo Airways is basically a weekend. So we're time works a lot different for us.
Wow!
Like this airplane right here is like it was built in '86, so technically, it's like a Chevy Caprice, but anyway, it's like we could theoretically operate it. There's a major skin repair in about 5,000 cycles, but after that, because of the low utilization and low entry point, these airplanes are fairly cheap right now as the 737-800s. So what happened? Your little airline thing, simplified a bit, is so the Maxes come up. Right. And so what the Maxes do, they push the 800s down.
Right.
So the 800s then push the
sevens,
all the classics down.
Right.
So the classics and then anybody that was running Jurassics, the 200s, can now buy classics cheap. Right. And that's kind of where we're at. And the same thing for freighters. So any of these 800s that were, the top end passenger machines are now the top end freighters. Because you're not going to go to Boeing and buy a brand new 737 for a freighter.
No.
So the Boeing the 800s become freighters, which push down the 400 freighters, which push down the 200s, and so all that stuff. And then there's a price benefit for that too.
Right.
So 10 years ago, these airplanes were twice the value that they are now, but they still do the same job. They burn the same fuel. The parts are relatively even cheaper now because Southwest is basically you can't drive from Arizona to Texas without hitting 3 or 4 737-300s. So
exactly.
So there is kind of a war effort to these airplanes now, where there was a lot of them built, and you don't need to manufacture the parts because there's a heck of a lot of them sitting there. So it is kind of fits our business model, and it took me a long time to study and do everything and figure out, different aircraft and, the ATR series, the Dash series, the Fokker 50, which is a very good airplane. It's
Sure.
highly underutilized.
Sure.
And Baslers and the modified
Wow.
Hawker 748s, the ATPs,
748s.
I think they call them.
Yep, ATPs.
All these different ones, you throw them all into a pile, and what comes out is the 737-300. I could do 40,000 pounds. I can burn 30% less fuel than a 200. And the Electra, it's just like, and the entry point's fairly low. Bang for your buck, I can actually go against an 800 if the freight is around 40,000 pounds, which a lot of freight that we do is last minute pop-up stuff. So if you have above 40,000 pounds, use an 800. If you have a 10,000 pound generator that has to go from Houston to Calgary to get onto the oil field, we're going to be the best price per pound by far.
By far.
So there's a niche for this airplane, and our business model a lot of times is have an airplane that could sit, and when you patience is like, we turned 52 this year, and a lot of that is patience is like a C-46, and that's part of the thing with the Warbirds too, is a lot of it's patience. These airplanes cannot go and do like what a Dash 8 for Horizon can just literally pick it up at the factory and then 15 years later drop it off, and you'll be like, oh, we blew too many tires. Like, it's just like that's it. Like, you're gonna change tires, and as long as no one steals it, but you could do pretty good. With the vintage airplanes, you got to have low utilization too, which is really key. But the 737-300 can be low utilized. The pilot training, believe it or not, is expensive, but it's not as expensive as the Electra because we can use a simulator. Because there's no coming right back to the simulator subject. There's no simulator for these airplanes that are qualified. There is a DC-3 simulator in the Netherlands. We do own Electra simulators, but they're basically sizes of 53-foot trailers. So the benefit of this airplane is horrendously expensive to train, but it's cheaper than the Electra. Because the Electra is burning 5,000 pounds an hour to train a co-pilot. So,
Boy, that adds up in a hurry.
Yeah.
So don't tell Elon he would.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing to see. Even to this day, the 737 classic generation is still being utilized, for freight operations. And, truth be told, there's such work. I'll tell you what, if they can survive Southwest Airlines cycles, they can survive.
That's it.
And God bless Southwest Airlines for ordering so much. Like that's, it's really good. And so it's really neat. And it's kind of funny. Everything is very American based. Like I'd say we're probably more American up here than I'd say probably a lot of other places because of the influence of everything. Of how many people think my father is an American and he barely has left Yellowknife his entire life?
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, because Alaska. Everyone thinks it's Alaska.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's Alaska.
Yeah.
Anything north of the Brooklyn Bridge, I guess, is Alaska.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to put you on blast. Wait, where'd you think the show was based earlier?
I thought it was Buffalo.
Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
This wild frontier.
That's so good, man. I'm like, listen, man, I grew up in New York City, and I knew Buffalo was cold, but man, I didn't know it was that cold.
Did the rivers ever thaw in Buffalo?
Oh my gosh!
Man.
Holy smokes!
I was like, wait a minute.
It's a common thing, and actually, that's why, believe it or not, that's why they didn't call it Buffalo Airways the show. It's because most of the viewers, any Canadians in Toronto, if you're a Canadian, there's a high chance you're in Toronto. So they're highly they're highly influenced by Buffalo, New York. It's right there. So
Right,
anytime you say
right.
Buffalo, they think Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo,
so
New York.
that's why they had to really put as much they could into the name. So ice, so it's cold. Pilots, so it's airplane, and NWT, so where it's at. So it's
Right.
for 18 characters. It's pretty distinctive. It's pretty like you can kind of narrow it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's that's just kind of how it is. A lot of ways. My I'm really good friends and guy that helped me out when I was starting with television was Alex Debogorski from Ice Road Truckers.
Ice Road Truckers, right?
Yeah, season 1 was done at a Yellowknife here.
Really?
With all locals.
Wow.
So Debogorski, I was in Alaska with I used to be a mechanic on the CL-215 water bombers, and I turned on the TV and he's on History Channel laughing. I'm like, what the frick is? And back then we called him Alec. We called him Alec, and because is he Polish? I can't remember. He's always, he changes every week what he is. But he goes, I go back, and I'm like, Alec, what the heck are you doing on television? He's like, oh, they paid me $5,000. I'm like, they paid you $5,000 to be on TV? Yeah, man. It's like, tell me all this stuff, and I'm like. It's like $5,000 US. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I was like, one day maybe I could be on TV. So about 2 years later, when Ice Pilots started going, he really helped me out. I love him to death. Probably not the best influence because he's very conspiratorial.
Right.
But he's very good. He's a really good-hearted person. He's the guy that goes to the hospital and grabs and helps people and grabs people from the rock bottom and brings them to rehab. The guy's in. Wow. He's an angel. He's not the most cleanest angel, but he's still an angel.
Yeah,
but he did help me out quite a bit and all that stuff.
Wow.
The whole part of that story is anytime he goes to the States and he's in truck shows and does all this stuff. And I call him proper famous. I'm because aviation's not that big. He's like proper famous. He was like Jay Leno and billboards in LA and stuff like that. And I got my picture like at Oshkosh on like a popsicle stand, right? So he's proper famous, but it's laughable how many times that he's introduced as a true American Alex Debogorski. He's like, I'm a Polish Canadian, but that's how we are up here. It's that
right,
and that's why it's you could easily mistake the North for the U.S. Really,
the U.S.
Right?
To influence, like growing up, all I had was like The Simpsons and Fresh Prince. That was like the only two.
Right.
That was my only influence. Everything else was boring Canadian stuff.
Right.
Which is like just the Queen telling you what to do and stuff. But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, no, it's all good. No. But yeah, Simpsons and the Fresh Prince were big influences on me.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Shout out to Fresh Prince, man. He still comes on during the day.
I'm as old as Uncle Phil now, so that's. I never thought that would happen, but
comes quick, man.
yeah, it comes quick for sure, and that's what's just amazing, And again, I've been following it since Ice Pilots, and I was scrolling through the tube, of course, you're laying down in bed, hitting all the notifications, and you see plane savers. So what the heck is this? And then I see your picture. I was like, no way. So my question to you, Mikey, is what brought on plane savers? What inspired you to start that venture?
Well, everything is kind of a long story, but the short version of it is we were very close to making the new series of Ice Pilots. And we had the production company Omni, which is amazing. They invested some money to have writers and stuff come up. And what the writers do is not like make stuff up. The writers come up and try to figure out what's going on, to write down what's going on, to send it back to the production company.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't just it should be the version would be like me phone up and go, what's going on? Oh, I got to C46. You don't speak that language. You actually got to send a writer up to actually write down what the hell's going on.
Got it.
And to a format, and then send it back to the production company. Production company sends it to the network and says, this is what we have. It's kind of like trying to sell a house or something. You get all the best pictures and best angles and everything. And you put it into a PDF. But anyway, So we were doing that, and we were getting pretty close. And up on eBay, this DC3, this D-Day DC3 popped in, and people were sending me the link. Anytime there's a DC3 for sale, I get spammed the link like crazy. And so I got it, and I was wasn't paying attention because it didn't have a cargo door on it, and blah blah blah. And finally, I saw the D-Day part of it, and the last episode of Ice Pots was a big D-Day machine. So D-Day is a big part of me, and I love the whole thing and preserving those airplanes and stuff. So when I was like, oh geez. So I was like, well, that would be a great part to kick off a TV show. Is, hey, let's go out, grab the crew, get the airplane going, and save it, right? Sure. And they thought it was really good, and I was like, well, you know what? And this year coming up is the 75th anniversary D-Day, and the last episode of Ice Pots was the 70th. So I was like, there's a lot of synergy there, and I think we can. Looking at the pictures, it doesn't look like it's that bad. Like it's bad, but not bad. And so we're like, oh, you could probably do this. And so we submitted it and did all the stuff. And the network was like, yeah, we love it. Can you do it next year? And I'm like, well, next year, that's not kind of how it works. Is like television's really slow when it comes to it. So it takes a year to get the show going, and then they film it, and then by the time it gets aired, it's another year. So it's like a 2-year process to see on television. Once it's going, it can be really quick. Because the show airs really quick. Even though, say, it takes you a year, it only takes the show 13 weeks to air each episode. So you can go from a year to really about a few weeks ago over the course of the season. But anyway, how time works a little bit different.
Sure.
So I was like, no, we can't really do it next year. And I was like, well, I started falling in love with the idea. And I was like, well, if I buy it, and then I got a GoPro, I could just film the process. And so we bought it, and then I didn't have a team or anything. I just the idea of saving the airplane, and you could see it in the very first episodes of Plane Savers, where I didn't even have a name for it. I was like, what do you guys think we should call it? And I think we can do this. And I knew I had my Uncle Ronnie, which was like in the scene of the Avengers when Loki comes in, and he's like, I got an army, and Tony Stark's like, well, we got the Hulk.
Got the Hulk.
And I knew that was my Uncle Ronnie because that's what he does. He was the one human out of 6 billion that was born to go in the bush and get DC-3s. That's just what he does. So it was like, to him, that's Tuesday. Like, this is not special. So it's like, so I was like, if I can just put Ronnie next to the airplane, we could figure the rest out. And so that's the process of the show. And it's in real time. I shot everything, edited, and put it online that day.
Wow.
So there was no next day. So from the very first episode to when we flew the airplane was 156 days. And we only spent the last 56 days with the airplane. And it happened all in real time. So right on the 75th anniversary of D-Day, we had about 650 people there as they're watching. People flew in from all over the world. And my father jumped in the airplane and flew it. And then that whole process was documented daily. So people would when you got home from work, I would get the video up probably around 6 or 7 p.m. at night. You got home from work, you could watch the show. You could see what we did that day. Or people in England would wake up in the morning and get it fresh. And there were so many people, like so many wives and girlfriends would message me like, I really hate your voice because my husband every morning I'm trying to wake up and he's sitting here watching you on TV. This Kermit the Frog sounding guy is really ruining my life.
Oh my god.
So that whole process was really amazing, and that's kind of what happened. Is we just documented it and as much just like the television show is just like what's going on today, what's the goal for today, and did we achieve it, yes or no? And if it's yes, good. If it's no, what can we do tomorrow to make it better, right? Yeah. So that's that's how that started, and then
cool.
YouTube stuff is different. It's more of a creative outlet for me, as you can imagine. There's a lot of things in my head, so it's just get some of that out of there, which is
for sure
leaves room to take a break. And once you get stuff out of your head,
absolutely,
I could just sit there and watch a Marvel movie. Really,
Exactly. Just like one of your episodes I saw a while back. I think it was like what was it? NHL? Yeah, it was NHL. I think '94, the best video game of all time.
Yeah,
For
that's a
sure.
whole nother story. It's NHL '94 is this weird, especially in New York City, which is really weird. But anyway, it's the one thing that Americans and Canadians could definitely be on the same 100% is this love of this video game, especially
Absolutely.
in the New York area. So I right after Ice Pilots, literally like the same month, I went and started filming that documentary, and I got some funding from the government and everything, and we went around, and it was like basically the best vacation of my life is hunting down this story. And this video game was built in a barn in Maine by a guy named Mark Lesser, who never watched hockey at all. And
wow.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he basically didn't know anything about anything. He had to start from scratch, and he ended up building the best video game of all time, which happens to be just NHL '94, which is just like Madden. And in fact, NHL '94 is the only time a hockey game outsold Madden to this day. So anyway, it's a big, complicated story about how it all works, and a lot of the Ice Pilots guys helped me film it, which was great. So it was kind of like this kind of release after 6 straight years of filming Ice Pilots. We got to go around the U.S. and chase this U.S., Canada, and chase this video game around. So,
That's awesome.
Literally going to the guy's house. Mark, I'm in Maine during the snowstorm, and I go to the guy's house, and we go to his basement, and we find the very first game because they're all serial numbered.
Yeah,
and it's like NHL '94 #1, and he didn't even know he had it.
Oh, really?
Wow. Did you ask him if he could have it?
Well, he gave me a copy. In the
Really?
film, he's like, "Oh, you can have this," because he had a box of them, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome." And I looked down, and it's just like the Holy Grail. It's like, "Whoa!"
It's glowing.
Like, this is
you pick it up
one.
and it's glowing.
And then you could see me. You could see me in this is happening in real time on film. I'm like, I'm doing this complicated thing in my head where like, do I just take this and put the one he gave me down? And I'm like reliving my whole life in guilt if I did that, right? And I'm just like playing my whole life out if I just stole this. And then you can see I come up with this great plan. I'm like, hey, you gave me this one. Can I trade for this one? And I thought this was the perfect way out. And he looks at it and he's like, well, why would you say that? And he grabs it and he's like, no, you can't. This is
Dang, so close. So close.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing when you just film is you can capture moments like that. And I awesome. I know we're completely off track, but I guess
this is all
off track is Grand CTP.
A Sega Genesis simulation kind of is like a simulator.
That was my first console, man. Sega Genesis. I'll never forget.
Absolutely. Oh my god.
Man, you didn't have no regular Nintendo mic?
No, man. Sega Genesis was the first one my parents got for me. Yeah.
We still got an original Atari somewhere around here.
Really?
Somewhere floating around.
It probably doesn't work, but we got one.
I was full. The cult of Sega, like blast processing, and like anybody had a Super Nintendo, just like, oh, that's a kid's machine. Like,
yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, my Mortal Kombat's got blood, and you got freaking Mario Kart, like
coins.
Coins.
Man, call me weird, but I could still smell the startup of the Sega Genesis, especially when it was brand new.
Oh yeah,
literally, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, we thought we were so cool. Anyway, I never really grew up. I'm still chasing that stuff.
No,
I'm right there with you. I still play with Legos.
It's we actually we still hold live tournaments for NHL '94. The community, there's a community around it. They just had one in New York at the Long Island Expo, and the championships this year's in Toronto. And I held in Vegas. I did Toronto. Went to Green Bay, did one, and it's kind of a neat little community. And those NHL '94 guys, they've never seen Ice Pilots. They have no clue anything like that. To me, I'm just one of their
one of the guys.
One of the different. They know about airplanes. Funny thing, another side story. My father,
Right.
in Alberta, is big in the cars, in vintage cars like that.
Oh yeah, but I saw some in the hangar.
50s.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the old school stuff like pre-muscle car era.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so he went to this before COVID. He did 35 years straight of going to this one swap meet.
Oh wow.
Straight. So
Wow.
there's this whole group of people that didn't even know he was a pilot at all. They thought he worked in the oil rigs. And so then when the show started up, they were just like, why is Joe, what's he doing? Like they had no clue.
Right.
Yeah, that he was a pilot and all that stuff. And
That's hilarious.
that's kind of neat. So
That's
once we leave this, like I'm in the hangar right now, but once we leave the hangar, I try to, just be normal and not talk about airplanes at all. And,
Exactly.
I try, but it always comes up.
Always comes up.
Yeah.
Especially for us, Speaking of which, Mikey, did you ever get the opportunity to visit Oshkosh? Did you go this year?
I didn't go this year, but we flew right after we got to DC3. We saved it. First trip we did was we flew to Oshkosh.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we flew to Oshkosh. We stayed there for the week, which is nice. They put us right in the front, and we had like rock stars. Sort like I was recognized at Oshkosh 10 times more from plane savers than I ever was from ice pilots.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
And it's because it was ice pilots is pretty broad, but plane savers is so focused and on that Oshkosh community, and they really think that they I shouldn't say that they really know you. It's easy to say they think they know you, but pretty much they know me better than pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
And there's that parasocial relationship. But the thing is, with aviation, you could really know somebody pretty quickly by figuring out the connection. Like my grandfather was a pilot, or my mom was a flight attendant. You could start building these character types in your head where you can instantly relate to somebody, and they're not a stranger.
Exactly.
There's these entry points into aviation, and everybody has one. Mine, of course, is family, but other places different. And so once you know the person's entry point, then you can start building. You can help build that person in your head to instantly relate and be, to talk and interact and stuff like that. And the horrible thing a lot of times is when people have walls, right? And it's just like you instantly think you know this person in a negative way or a positive way or whatever.
Exactly.
Like that. But just the openness of trying to relate and try to find something like Sega Genesis. It's just like the smell and airplanes and flight simulating and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much things that people have so much in common with.
Absolutely.
And if we just focus on those things, then all the other stuff doesn't matter, right? So,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, and that's what makes it. That's what makes this community great. Absolutely, Mikey. Because it's like no matter where you go, you go to your home airport, or from watching plane savers, like man, I can relate. It's like all four of us, we have something that bonds us, and I think that's what makes it. That's what makes this community beautiful. But it's really, really fantastic to have you on, Mikey, and give us a little bit behind the scenes picture on how that was put together, because it's just amazing to me. Like, you guys will be in the middle of nowhere swinging an engine.
Man. And how quickly you guys do it too is like, wow, man. You guys literally have people there that know airplanes like the back of their hands. It's so amazing. It's truly remarkable.
The big key is Easter egg, is not being an Easter egger, is kind of knowing a problem. And we go back to, like, say, the 1985 F-150. If you know what's wrong, if you can hear it, if you can feel it, you can do it. You're like, okay, I've done this 75 times in the last 10 years. This is the issue. The worst part is if you pulled it into up here it's called a Canadian Tire, but down there would be like some generic automotive place. They would go, well, let's try the starter, And then that was $100. So let's try the shock, and then so that's what will kill any airplane operation,
Right.
especially a small one. Is the Easter egg.
Yeah.
And but as you go up, the whole model is built on Easter egging. Like a 737, it's like replace this part. Replace
replace this part.
It takes out all the. I shouldn't say skill. There's a lot of skillful people that work on 737s and the big jets, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But their systems are completely different because they're told what to do. Whereas DC-3 is like
it's an art.
There's no. It's
it
like,
is an
you can
art.
get a Ouija board. Like, what are you gonna do?
That's what blew my mind. You'll watch the mechanic, and we're talking about these are just old radial engines. I mean, it's already difficult enough to find someone who would even know what they're looking at, period. But just to be able to diagnose, boom, we need to do this, and boom, they're up and flying was just absolutely
in no time.
So on the flip side of that is it's not scalable,
right?
So like that's the playing the devil's advocate of the thing is that Buffalo Airways, when you operate C-46s and that kind of stuff, is not scalable. There is only one Uncle Ronnie. There's only one Hulk,
right?
And he can only do so much. So if you're a company like Southwest, everything has to be the same. Everybody, the skill level of pilots, you got to be the lowest pilot is what you train for, because any pilot that is lower than that is fired. Any pilot that is higher than that might do something that puts the lower pilots in danger because they can't do that. You got and mechanics are the same. So that's why stuff gets soulless as it gets bigger, is because you have to scale.
You got to scale.
Your Starbucks, your KFCs, your McDonald's and stuff like that. When you go grab a Big Mac in Houston, you grab a Big Mac in high level Alberta, it's identical. And it has to be. But if you go to a mom and pop, you can have a way better burger at the truck stop, but you can't do that at scale because that one chef knows that one spice to put in the one thing, and you get the one ketchup somewhere and the one mustard. And so So, and that's the beauty, and that's why Ice Pilots is a moment in time between 2008 and 2014 that was captured. That time will never exist again. We can't. The stuff that we were doing there has changed with safety procedures and pilots and training and new regulations every year. So, and when we were filming, the number one thing the old guy said was, "Man, imagine if they're here 20 years ago. Imagine if they're here 30 years ago." But we could say that now. We're like, good thing we got it back then, because we can do that now.
We can do it now.
So that's the beautiful thing, is this moment in time. And part of the whole reason I wanted to do that too was it sounds weird, but it's just like people in the show, they have these big adventures, and their family at home has no clue. Yeah, he's like, Johnny's in Yellowknife, and he's very cold. You guys send him a jacket. He's just like, they don't know. Johnny's been stuck in Cambridge Bay with a blown engine, and can't find the hotel. Forklift drivers gone, and all that stuff. So it's just like, so that moment in time. So when Johnny's at Air Canada, that it can go, hey, look at this. Like, this is what I did at this one moment. It would be lost. Otherwise, it would be lost. 95% of what happened on Ice Pilots, if it wasn't on Ice Pilots, I would have never remembered. And there's some like it would be gone. It's just like it's just like, what did you have for supper 6 years ago on May 3rd? It's just like you can remember the top parts, like, I remember being in Turkey, and you remember we went to Venezuela, and you remember D-Day, and it's just like, you kind of remember the tops, but then there's like all the who was there, what was it like, so it's just this absolute moment in time, which is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like, and again, just going through the show and going through, especially the YouTube channel, you can clearly see the passion, Mikey, into what you do. And, especially keeping these old planes going. And I know I myself, just been a huge fan, and will continue to be a fan. And I even
Likewise.
I even saw that you had a huge guest up there as well, Mr. Sam Chewy, I believe. I think you did something
Sam.
with him as well. Yep.
But a little like Sam, which was funny with Sam was he's like I'm pretty close knit with a lot of the aviation YouTubers that is kind of in that warbird air show niche.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And Sam was always this guy that had like in a king size bed over Dubai and some $500 million jet. Like, it was like the weirdest thing. People are always like, "Oh, you should ask Sam to come up to Yellowknife." I'm like, "Oh, Sam doesn't want to go to Yellowknife. Why would he? He's doing pretty well for himself, eating caviar and stuff."
Right.
But little did I know, he was trying to come up to Yellowknife since the beginning.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he was anytime he would be around somebody in kind of my circle ish.
Yeah.
Right.
He would ask like, "Oh, can I get Mikey's contact info? I want to go up to Yellowknife." I didn't know any of this. He just happened to be on a Planesavers video and saw that there's an email, just planesavers@gmail.com.
Right.
And he just wrote an email. It's like, "Hey, I'm Sam. I make YouTube videos. I like to come up to Yellowknife." I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are." So I jumped his 707 stuff. I loved when he went flying on the 707, which is very, very cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably one of the coolest things, and one of the best examples how YouTube is better than any network TV is stuff like that. And so he jumped on. He's like, "Yeah, I wanted to come, and I didn't realize it did this ad easy." Like literally, like 3 minutes after he sent me the email, I'm like, "Sure, come on." And then he jumped in, and like a week later, he was here, and
wow,
and so that was very cool. And we did that little segment, and very, very hot out. I was like, should have came in the wintertime, but that's pretty fun. So that's kind of how the small stuff works, and all my other YouTube friends didn't come. He's the only YouTuber that's came up here. There was a guy named Boogie or something like that. It was like one of the proto bloggers from a long time ago. He came up here once, but all my aviation friends that every time I talk to them, I'm coming up to you, and I've known these guys for decades, or not decades, but YouTube decades. YouTube decades. And Sam's like jumping on a flight, jumped on Air Canada economy. I'm like, how did that work out for you? But he's very good. He's the thing with Sam is he's very driven, and I can see why. Seeing the behind the scenes of how he does stuff, and how he can see a situation and turn that situation into a video is very cool, and he's very unique in that point of view. Because he's not a pilot, not a mechanic. He's just a fan, and he's a fan of aviation, and so he could see it from that point of view. So a lot of aviation YouTubers are so stuck in the pilot point of view that it's just like, here's my approach, and here's 25 minutes of it, and there's no cutaways. Why doesn't it have 6 million views? Right? It's just like
exactly
that. The people that love that stuff love it. And if you cut away from that approach, the person's like, "I'm going to unsubscribe and never watch you again." But like that certain stuff is how it is. And then, but to reach a broader audience, you gotta do it at scale. You gotta homogenize and do that
perspective for sure.
Yeah, which was a little sidetrack. There's this group of European filmmakers that film flights. And they film it in real time.
Big Jet TV?
So what's that?
Big Jet TV?
No, this is before. No, that's like live streaming.
Okay.
This is like a guy shows up with a camera, gets on an airplane, and just goes.
Oh wow!
Looks out the window. Looks at the altimeter. Looks out the window. For 3 hours.
3 hours.
and puts it on a DVD, and then they sell it as a thing. And there's that group of people, right? But I was so excited because this was probably pre 9/11, so like like 99, 2000.
Oh yeah.
And I got this DVD. The guy went for a flight on the DC-4. I'm like, oh, cool! This is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be like Ice Pops before I even knew what Ice Pops was. And then it's like, what the frick is this? And after 5 minutes, I'm like, this is horrible. This is like the sound is completely homogenized. There's no editing, and I'm like, what? Is this what aviation videos are? Is this like?
I've seen those videos. I know.
But on the flip side, on the absolute flip side of it, 20 some years later, that's a moment in time.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
If you wanted to know what it's like to be on a DC-4, that is exactly what it's like to be in a DC-4. Just put some hydraulic fluid on your face so you can get that smell. And that's it. So even that, to me, I was horrified. I thought I was going to watch Top Gun. But it was like... but even that. So everything has its has its thing. And again, going back to YouTube, that is amazing. Sure. So like, anytime I have to do something technical, and I go to YouTube, I'm like, hey, show me this. And sometimes it's like the video's like, hey, everybody, thanks for watching my last video. If you haven't subscribed, Shane, here's the thing from Moon Spoon, the new cereal. It doesn't have any sugar. And it goes on and on.
Exactly.
I just want to know how to change a clock on my VCR. Like this, I can't find the manual. And it's just like goes on and on and on. Oh it's like half a vlog. So and that's just how it is. So each and again, that's the beautiful thing about YouTube.
Hey, man, that's an awesome cereal name. I should make one.
Don't feel bad, Mikey. I'm checked out as well. After like that first few seconds of the ad, I'm like, man, I forgot what I was looking for. So
yeah. So it's good, and then like shout out to who I believe does it the best and mixes everything as good as possible is Flight Shops. I don't know if you guys see his videos.
Oh yeah,
He gets rid of all the flash. He has all the technical spirits. He cares so much about the pilot experience, and he's legitimate. Like I spent a lot of time with Flight Shops, and he's exactly like he is on film. He is no way. That is how he is, and he cares so much. So he is the Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky, that style of you can't you could be better at him in a video, maybe once or twice, but to do 200 videos at the exact same
consistent,
thing.
Great.
Consistent.
Yeah.
And then I really like Trent Palmer because he's on the other side of that where he's really got a flash. His cinematography is amazing. He's not scared to branch out and do something like completely non-aviation related.
Exactly.
And I met him at Oshkosh. I was really impressed by him. He's the other side of it, and then there's then there's the crash guys like Blanco Illyrio and Dan Bryant, right?
Yep.
Grider,
Grider. He's I've talked to him quite a bit. He's DC. His DC-3 is from Fokker. He's got a German DC-3. German.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's fairly rare. But anyway,
he's based there in Atlanta too.
Dennis? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yep. He's here somewhere close to Atlanta.
So he's so the crash guys, and I kind of call them crash guys. As you can see, what videos get the most views is the crashes.
Sure.
And and anytime there's a crash, we're all on the video trying to watch, and we all trying to figure out what's going on. And it's a necessary thing. And but to me that is and those two guys I talk about those two guys because I like them. They're really good guys. And they're completely opposites. Like Blanco would just be like, "Okay, folks, there's no this is just the facts." And then Dan's I literally went to the crash site and pulled up the thing, and then so there are two things. But the thing with YouTube is that there's the algorithm, and algorithm loves crashes. Like if you want a million view video, deal with a crash video.
Yeah,
I'm just happy that those two guys are the leaders in it right now because it could go bad. It could be very bad. But did you see that, Dan, where he went on the roof of that one building and grabbed that light? That one lady that hit,
from what was it, name? Boise? She was coming in on 208 and she hit the top of the building on the I-5 approach.
I'm watching the YouTube video. I'm like, what? Dan, you're like on the roof and he grabs the light and he brings the light home. I'm like, what kind of world is this?
That's crazy. I missed that.
Yeah,
and he's like, it wasn't even hooked up and all this stuff. I'm like, and then he goes into the math and it's like an hour and a half video. I'm like, what am I watching? I'm like, this is nuts. So so there's all that, and then and then there's a bunch of the guys in Alaska. They're doing really good.
For sure.
And then on the other side, there's Sam, who's does his own thing, and
great content.
Puts you in that world, because when are we gonna spend $30,000 to go on a Emirates flight just to sit in
review
that
first class?
We can do it for free by watching the Sam video, right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, as long as we get NordVPN or whatever. But
exactly. Oh my goodness.
So I do, and there's the brush breaks, and there's that's a beautiful thing about YouTube. And this moment in YouTube time, we don't know how lucky we are that we're in this moment.
For sure.
Where 100%. People like yourselves and me and content creators can carve 100%. Out their own piece, and then it's there's no network, there's no boss, there's no company.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can make a podcast and do whatever you want. We can be talking about NHL 94 on a podcast. And you can. You don't have a station manager going.
No, and you're 100% right, Mikey.
For this stuff.
You're very lucky. Yep. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you're 100% right. I say it all the time, especially, being a pilot. It's, those learning experiences that you get from those investigations from, the crash guys that you mentioned, to me are, as unfortunate as they may be, it's important, it's important to analyze those, and, I know it helps me, in my,
Absolutely.
in my everyday trips, to develop. We looked at one. Talked about one yesterday, and again, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's a learning experience for sure.
For sure, and like I said, Dan Gratter's crazy, but I guarantee he's saved lives. He has
absolutely, without doubt.
So, no matter how you do it, he's, even though he goes on buildings and rips off antennas and all that stuff, is quite crazy, but to cut through the clutter.
Even if it's turning that base to final, let me stay coordinated, because I don't want Dan Grider talking about me. Literally.
He's like, I love him. He teases me lots, so I don't feel bad teasing him a bit.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, it's all in good fun. Holy smokes, Mikey! It's just been an absolute blast. My goodness, it's been just a pleasure to have you on. But I know we're getting about that time. I know you got tons of things to do over there at the airline. But just to close us out, Mikey, do you have any closing thoughts for us? Any words of wisdom there?
No. The one thing that I didn't mention, there was like the Buffalo Airways virtual. There's the whole sim airline of Buffalo Airways that is ran.
Right.
And so interacting with those guys is really cool, because a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to be in an ability to be around aviation for financial reasons, health reasons, logistical reasons.
For sure.
Just basically living on an island in the middle of nowhere. There's no airport. Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why you can't be on air around in aviation, and that's why I really like supporting the sim community, is because it's cool, and you can do it on your phone. You could you could do it, and everyone could be a part of it. And that wasn't true 20 years ago, unless it was building models and all that kind of stuff. But which is its own thing. But like the sim community is very cool, because it puts anybody that has the ability, that has a smartphone, can do it, and then build up and do that stuff. So I'm always hugely supportive of that, because anybody that's in and around aviation is very, very lucky. And
for sure.
And so aviation is this weird weird thing, like a little tangent. When Ice Pilots was on Netflix,
Right.
When I was getting orders on our Airways, like our merchandise store, and I was tracking
Right.
on where they were. So every order that came in, I in the US,
Right.
I was tracking where it came from, trying to see where the fans were. And it
Right.
was like, are the fans from California? Are the fans from Texas? Are the fans from New York? Are the fans from Montana? And so over the course of about 5 months, I think there was like 400 data points. And I got the map out and did everything.
Right.
And then when I got the map, the only thing was it was basically population density. If you took a population density map and you put it back to my map, it's identical. Which tells me that aviation isn't regional. It is basically like ingrained, like to the Marvel, like a mutant. There's only certain people that you got to be born with it, male, female, whatever. Is you if you like aviation, it's not regional. It is. You could be anywhere, and some people are lucky enough to be in. Some people are have to find their own way to
for sure
alleviate that addiction. So
exactly. Exactly.
That's kind of cool. So in flight sim, model building, air shows,
for sure.
Yeah, YouTube, all that stuff, art. There's so many ways in aviation, and that's why I tell kids when I do stuff too is, and like avionics gets you into all anybody that loves wires and electricity, the mechanics, like even the hydraulics. There's the CNC guys. There's the manual guys, people that love safety, the people that love firefighting. There's firefighting. There's aviation is so broad. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but for the people that it's for, there's somewhere in there for you. So
exactly,
you just got to find it. It's not just
got to find it.
It's everyone kind of wants to know that. I think aviation is those pilots walking through the terminal with their little bag going by Chili's, but but there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right, Mikey. And thank you for saying that, because we preached that till we're blue in the face on this show. Not everyone, commercial aviation from a flying perspective, being a person, as you mentioned, going through the airport, whether it be health reasons, not everyone can get to that level, but that doesn't mean you're completely out of the game, right? There's so many other ventures one could take to get into the industry. And, thank you so much for highlighting that for sure. So, but we'll definitely, you guys, if you to our audience, if you haven't checked out Plane Savers, please check out Plane Savers. We'll definitely link it in the description as well. In addition, you guys can also check out Ice Pilots. It still comes on Weather Channel, and it also comes on Prime Video. It's on Prime Video also. So
correct.
And on YouTube too. There's a bunch of episodes on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. YouTube's also. So, do not miss it, guys. It's awesome. It's awesome show. And again, from the Close Traffic family, Mikey, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us and telling us some cool stories. And I'll leave it up to not Mikey, I'm sorry, Mike. It's two mics. Oh my gosh.
First show with two mics.
I guess exactly. Mike, what you got for us, brother?
Man, this was just awesome. This was great. Like I'm just blown away. I have nothing else really to say besides I do want to come up there one of these days, Mikey. I won't be like your YouTube friend and have decades pass by and not make it up there. But,
absolutely.
With YouTube decades, it would be awesome to take a trip up there and definitely see you at one of these upcoming air shows or conventions. We do plan. We've been telling our audience we do plan at being at Oshkosh next year, as well as several other conventions and air shows. So looking forward to meeting you in person, man.
Yeah, most likely I'll be at Oshkosh if this airplane hasn't got the best of me, I'll be at. I got gray hair now too, which is.
Man.
I don't feel bad. I got a couple sprinkling around here as well. Charlie, what you got for us, brother?
Man, I'm just saying, at least it's gray and not completely gone like mine. Man, I got nothing. This was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Absolutely.
Oh, that was great.
Absolutely.
It's been fun.
Well,
All
sweet,
right.
guys. Well, awesome. Well, we'll leave it there. And again, guys, if you have the opportunity, definitely check us out on Patreon as well. Definitely helps out. And in addition, like I said, we'll also link Mikey's YouTube channel as well as some links to the show. In addition to that, so again, guys, take care of yourself and each other, and keep the blue side up. We'll see you. Mike counts out.
We'll see ya.